Hello, welcome back to my channel, but if you're new here, welcome. My name is Zoe, and today we are doing the mid-year book tag. I first saw Sarah do this, but I know she was inspired by another YouTuber who I'll put both their links in the description below, but I thought that we could talk about my stats so far for the year, my favorite books, my letdowns, what I still want to read this year, and pretty much anything else related to books. So that's what we're going to get into today. Let's get started. We're gonna start with stats. So my reading goal for the year is 75 books. This is the same as it was last year. I did surpass that goal, but I was like, I don't know if I really want to set a higher goal knowing that I'm also writing actively. So in order to give myself some grace, I kept it at 75 books. I am on track to hitting my goal for the year, and I'm currently at 42 books. I'm almost at 43 books. I'm about 93% of the way done with The Three Musketeers. And so once I finish that, I'll be at 43 books. I should finish that today or tomorrow. When I'm looking at my trends on Fable, that's my primary book tracking app that I use, I always slow down in the summer months. I start off really strong in January, and then I kind of have an upside down bell curve for the rest of the year. In terms of my most read genres, this isn't really a surprise to me at all. My top genre is romance, then literary fiction, fantasy, young adult, and biography. There is a little bit of a caveat to this because I have been really intentional about reading my physical TBR and trying to get that down. So I'm primarily choosing books that I already own, which is a lot of romance, literary fiction, fantasy, young adult, and biography. So this isn't really a surprise to me. I'm not bringing in a ton of new books into the mix. So that is also something to keep in mind with this book tag. Is almost all of these I own. Some of them I got from the library. In terms of my average rating, this is the best reading year I think so far in terms of average rating. My average rating is a 4, which is really high. I haven't had a ton of 5-star books, but I have had a lot of 4.5-star books. Like books that have really been close to being 5 stars, but for some reason didn't meet that mark. I did have one book that I rated 2 stars and I was really upset about it, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Those are my overall stats, just so you know what you're getting into. That's the selection that I have to choose from. Let's start with the questions. The first question for the book tag is the best book that I read so far this year. The best book I've read so far in 2026 was Kill the Beast by Sarah Swift. This is pitched as Howl's Moving Castle meets The Witcher, and I think those are the perfect vibes for it. We follow Lissa, who is our main character in the story. She is the Witcher of this tale, so she's the one slaying all the mythical beasts, but she's doing so because she's trying to hunt down the beast, which is this guy on the cover here, because we are trying to avenge her brother's death, okay? The beast killed her brother at a young age. She has made it her life's mission to kill all of the mythical beasts. Alderic is the man who officially hires her to kill the beast because he has knowledge of whereabouts this beast has been hiding, and he is paying her a large sum of money to do this. And so they have to go around the realm and gather materials to build the weapon that will ultimately kill the beast. And it is such a fun journey. There's a lot of found family and love in this in all forms, whether it's platonic, romantic, familial, all of the above. So it was just really well done. This was Sarah Swift's first book, and she has a new one coming out soon, and I cannot wait to read it. This will be an auto-buy author for me. The next question is a new release that I haven't read yet, but I want to. That would be Cherry Baby by Rainbow Rowell. I have the ARC edition of this, but I haven't read it yet. Cherry Baby is Rainbow Rowell's richest, most ambitious, sexiest novel yet, told with deep tenderness and shot through with Rowell's signature wit. This is a second chance romance for grown-ups, for people who understand how rare it is to get even one chance at love, and how impossible it can feel to make it work. That just feels like a really solid romance book to me, and I'm really excited to read this. So it's definitely on my list this year, and I will get to it. I just haven't read it yet. Now for my most anticipated releases of the year, that will be Knave in the Moon by Rachel Gillig, Tempest by Victoria Aveyard. I read Night in the Moth last year, and then obviously I love the Shepherd King duology, which is One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns. I just love Rachel Gillig's writing style. It is so atmospheric, and you just feel so enveloped in the story no matter where you are. She loves a gothic feeling atmosphere, and I'm here for it. On the other side, I've never read a Victoria Aveyard work, and Tempest will kind of be my first introduction to it, but an epic pirate romantasy sounds right up my alley. I love pirate anything. And I think that Victoria Aveyard is so well spoken. I love seeing her on socials. And I know that this is also going to be multiple books in that series, so I'm just really excited to get my hands on it. It looks like a thick book. And sometimes that's what I need. Next is the biggest surprise of the year so far. And my biggest surprise of the year so far was Phoebe Berman's Gonna Lose It by Brooke Averick. It's not that I thought it was going to be bad by any means. I think most surprising in terms of how much I ended up loving it. I decided to listen to the audiobook and Brooke actually narrates it. And sometimes that can be hard because it feels very self-inserty. Like it feels like a lot of self-insertion into the work when it's the author reading a work of fiction, so then you start to kind of blend the lives together. While I know that Phoebe Berman's, relationship and intimacy anxiety is something that Brooke shares, Phoebe then took on a mind of her own throughout the book, and I thought that the narration was done really well. Brooke did a great job depicting the internal monologue of anxiety and spiraling and what that feels like. Because of that, it was really surprising to me. I really enjoyed it. As a girly who has anxiety, it felt relatable to some capacity of trying to make sense of emotions that are illogical. The next question involves what was my biggest letdown of 2026, and this actually happened in January, which was not a great way to start the year, but it was a book that I randomly picked up at the library. The cover is gorgeous, okay? The cover was very intriguing and the title itself was really intriguing. The book is Womb City. I think I was really into it in the first half, and then the second half took on this whole other storyline and it really lost me at the end. There's just like a lot going on in this book, and I think it should have been either longer or we should have honed in on an aspect of it more. There's government surveillance, there's ranking criminal activity, reincarnating people's bodies, putting souls into other people's bodies based on criminal offenses and second chances. And there's infertility issues where they are growing babies in what they call Womb City. It's like a big incubator area. And there's a lot of corruption and deceit, and that was really what drew me in. But yeah, the mythological aspect felt like a Hail Mary type of situation where the book was heading in one direction, but then the author got kind of stuck. That's just how it felt to me. I really wanted to rate it higher than I did. The next one is my favorite author, new or debut. And I was thinking about this for a while because I've read a lot of different authors this year, and the one that came to mind immediately was Jan Sines. She wrote 200 Monas. This was her debut novel, and I'm so glad that it's getting hype. If you have seen it on social media and you like weird girl lit fic, that is exactly the type of vibe you want. It's about a girl who finds 200 mysterious loose pills in her deceased mother's closet, and she has 48 hours to sell them or else the drug dealers are gonna come after her. And the pills are actually women's pleasure pills, if you catch what I'm saying. There's a lot of discussion of grief, obviously, with her mother's passing. I am so interested to see the next book that Jan Sines comes out with. This one was so different than any other book I've ever read. My favorite characters of the year so far. I have 2 books in my hands, and one is a YA fantasy and one is a romance. So I'll talk about the romance first. And Now Back to You by B.K. Borison features these 2 lovely people on the cover, Delilah and Jackson. Delilah is the TV weather woman and Jackson is a competing radio weather man. They're forced to go cover a record-breaking snowstorm that's coming through. There is reluctance, they don't understand each other's vibes, but their love story is just so endearing, and I really loved their dynamic. She made Jackson so flustered and it was the best. So I really loved their story. I loved them together. Next book is Curious Tides by Pascal Lascelles. This is, like I said, the first in a YA fantasy trilogy, and it is a dual POV. We are following Emery and Baz. They have both lost someone dear to them. Baz's sister is also Emery's best friend, and she dies tragically at the very beginning of this book, and it sets off this crazy adventure. Emery is discovering herself and finding her worth. Baz is trying to keep to himself and not get in the way of anything, and their paths just keep intersecting and crossing. Next is a book that made me cry. I have only cried at one book so far this year, and it was again at the very beginning of the year in January. I have a vivid memory of finishing this book and sobbing ugly crying on the couch. My husband was reading on the opposite end of the couch and he was genuinely concerned. He was like, "Are you okay?" And that is Tell the Wolves I'm Home by Carol Rifka Brunt. This takes place in the 80s. We follow a 14-year-old girl who loves and deeply admires her uncle. Her uncle is dying from the AIDS epidemic of the time. Once he dies, as that happens towards the beginning of the book, she meets secret life partner that she had no idea existed, and they form a relationship. You know, they exchange stories of her uncle and she learns more about her uncle through the boyfriend, and it's so endearing and heart-wrenching because obviously the AIDS epidemic was devastating, and sobbing, ugly crying by the end of it. I would highly recommend that book. On the other side of that, books that made me happy this year. I have two in my hand. One I've already talked about, and Now Back to You by B.K. Borison. An Emily Henry book, of course. Great Big Beautiful Life. I read it this year. I loved it. I buddy read this with my husband, and that also just made it really special, and it made me super happy. He also loves Emily Henry. Something about Emily Henry books feel tangible and magical at the same time. It's a truly special gift that she has. This takes place in a small town in Georgia. We have two competing writers trying to write the same story of this super famous elderly woman who's finally ready to share her life story after hiding and being totally anonymous for most of her life. It's kind of a rivals to lovers situation, and this book just made me really happy. I have really nothing else to say about it other than I really enjoyed it. I also am a Happy Place lover, and I really loved this, and I find that if you loved Happy Place, you also loved this, and vice versa. If you hated Happy Place, you also probably weren't a fan of this one. So keep that in mind for my Emily Henry readers if you haven't read this one yet. Next is the most beautiful book I've either bought or received, and this is really fun. I don't normally buy special editions of books, but I did buy two special editions this year. Catabasis by R.F. Kuang. And the reason it's so beautiful is because it has these sprayed edges. Okay, it's all around. It's just absolutely beautiful. I have it facing out this way on my shelf, is this version of Fear the Flames. And it is beautiful literally everywhere, okay? So the painting also continues on the edge. We have gold foiling, and then the end pages are a different artist. He does a lot of Game of Thrones paintings, and so as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, I have to get this. I've already read this book, but I wanted a special edition of it. I didn't have a physical copy, and wow. So this is just a display item. I'll probably reread it at some point, but she's beautiful on my shelf. Next is what books do I need to read by the end of the year? I only put one here. There are a lot of books I'd like to read by the end of the year. Obviously, I am whittling away at my physical TBR, so I still have like 37 books left on my TBR, which is I'm very proud of myself for. The one book that I really want to read before the end of the year, and I'm shocked I haven't read it yet, is When the Moon Hatched. People love this book. I think I'm having a bit of big book fear. It is... How many pages is it? Oh my God. It's like almost 700 pages long. I don't know why I didn't read it. I think I was a little intimidated by it. I know the second book just came out and people also love the new one, so I need to get on it. I anticipate this will be a fall read, to be honest, because a fantasy in the fall is undefeated. Next is how many 5-star reads I've had this year. Like I said, I have not had many 5-star reads at all this year based on the volume of books I've read, but I'm really picky with my 5-star reads. Like, I have to really think about it before I rate it 5 stars. 3 books have made the list for 5-star. So going over the 2 that I've already talked about, Look Who Makes Another Appearance, B.K. Borison. And Now Back to You. Kill the Beast by Sarah Swift, of course. The Ending Writes Itself by Evelyn Clark. This is V.E. Schwab. She's the Evelyn of Evelyn Clark. Kat Clark is Clark of Evelyn Clark. So they co-wrote this together. I think if you're a writer, you will especially love this book. It has such a satirical take on the publishing industry. They talk about how hard it is to get an agent, how difficult it is to have a publisher or an editor really believe in your work and push your work accordingly. Just how cutthroat the industry is, how it drains people, how people lose sight of the love that they have for writing. All set in a locked room murder mystery. It was so good. The characters are funny and crazy. A super famous, prolific author invites a variety of other authors from different genres to his secluded island for a weekend. The people don't know why they're invited. They don't get any other note other than that they've been summoned. So they come to the island only to find out that he is dead. And they are tasked by his editor and agent. These authors have a chance to win in some major money and a book deal by finishing the last book in his super mega hit series. Things start getting crazy. I genuinely didn't know what to expect the whole time. It took me for a wild ride, and I really enjoyed this one. So I would highly recommend, if you love a mystery, if you love Agatha Christie, if you like the Knives Out movies, you would really like this book. The books I'm about to show you are 4 stars and above. There are a lot of books that were 4 stars and above for me, so we're gonna kind of rapid fire this one. I'll be sure to tell you a little bit about what it's about, but we're not going to spend too long on these. All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. This follows a blind French girl and a young German boy during World War II, and it is devastating. This feels really weird to share right after the book I just showed you, but this was a really highly rated book for me. This was almost a 5-star read for me, which I guess I should have also put in the surprising books. Hopeless Necromantic by Shiloh Breyer. I was cackling at this book. I was laughing out loud at this book. It is a slow burn romance, but it also is hilarious. It felt very Dungeons and Dragons-esque if you've played Baldur's Gate. That style of character, if you look, we have a skeleton right here. That's Benjamin. He is a great comedic relief, though pretty much everyone in this is funny. Next is one you've heard probably quite a lot from a lot of different creators, and that's Yesteryear by Carol Claire Burke. I got this from the library. This one is a trad wife who finds herself actually in the 1800s, like the era of actual trad wives, unknown to us. So it's flopping between timelines of present day and the 1800s, and you're just trying to figure out how the heck she got there. Curious Tides, I talked a little bit about this. This is set in a dark academia setting. The magic system is so unique, and I really love that about this book specifically. There are different houses in this university, and it's based on your magical abilities, which are controlled by the phase of the moon that you were born on and the pull of the tide. So what type of tide was it? What was the moon phase? And that determines your magical abilities. And there's a lot of conspiracy in this and a lot of mystery, and you're trying to figure out a lot of different aspects of what the government is hiding, what the school is hiding. There are secret cults. There's a lost epilogue of this fairy tale that seemingly is tied to all of the history of everything, and it's a wild ride. Okay, this is the first book, so I will be reading the other 2 very soon. I talked about this one as well, Phoebe Berman's Gonna Lose It by Brooke Averick. This follows Phoebe, who is about to turn 30 and she is still a virgin, and she makes it her goal to lose her virginity by the time she turns 30, but she has crippling intimacy anxiety. It is very reminiscent of a classic rom-com, and it was just a fun read. Next is A Terribly Nasty Business by Julia Seals. This is a murder mystery, but a cozy murder mystery. It gives Bridgerton vibes. It's set in the Regency era. Our main character is trying to solve a murder with her business partner while at the same time trying to find a prospect to marry. So she has money to send back to her family, and it is very funny, very silly. This one is another weird girl lit fic, and it is All Fours by Miranda July. How to explain this book? Our main character is going on a trip to New York City, is leaving her husband and child behind to do this, except she doesn't actually go to New York City. She talks about this big road trip she goes on. She actually only ends up one town over, and she has an existential crisis. She hires a renovator to renovate a motel room, and then she becomes obsessed with this random guy that she meets, and her life essentially spirals out of control. It's a lot about aging as a woman, how people perceive you as an aging woman, an indescribable book. So again, if you are a weird girl lit fic fan, you would also really like this one. Next is Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle. This is a horror novel. Our main character is a TV writer, and he is about to write the finale of this huge television show that he's been a part of. The TV execs want him to kill off the gay characters, and he refuses, and then he becomes hunted and haunted by all of his horror characters that he's ever conceived. It is very unsettling and spooky, but also has humor in it. This one had me guessing the whole time. Another one that I got from the library this year was Grape Juice, which is an 831 story. It was my first time reading an 831 story, and I was super excited that they had it at the library. I'm going to France later this year, and so it felt very perfect because it takes place at a French winery. She works for a wine cellar in America. She goes to this as a business venture, and falls in love with one of the men who's also at the winery for the summer. It is a very quick, easy romance. I loved the ending. I love the hope that it leaves you with, and I won't say anything else because I don't want to spoil it, but it was very sweet and cute, and I did really like the romance in it. Another 4-star read was Tides of Fortune by Lauren Hamilton Murray. I got this as an ARC. I read Heir of Storms when that one came out, and then Tides of Fortune is the second book in this trilogy. It was so fun. It was a classic second book in a fantasy where they're doing a lot of traveling, but they're uncovering a lot of secrets and conspiracies that have been hidden from them. You learn more about the magic system, about the histories. Our main character is a storm weaver, which is an incredibly rare power to have, and so she doesn't quite fit in with her family who are flame-born, and there's also delicious tension and romance in this. And I can't wait for book 3. 1984 by George Orwell. I was not required to read this in school. It was just not part of my curriculum, and I'm so glad that I picked it up. Just very spooky and dystopian, but also is very relevant to what's going on in our own world today, so it felt extra spooky reading it. Another weird girl lit fic book that I read was Best Offer Wins. This is about a 30-something-year-old woman in DC trying to buy a house. She thinks that she needs to have the house before she has a baby and the rest of her life can begin, and she is dead set on this one house in this neighborhood, and she becomes super obsessive stalkerish to the people who live there. It just gets worse and worse and worse, and again, the main character, you don't want to root for her if she's awful but for some reason you do root for her, and it just really spirals out of control, and I'm not going to say anything else for fear of spoiling stuff, but just know, as you're reading it, if you think it can't get worse, it can't get worse. And it will. So these next few, I actually let my friends borrow the physical copies, so I don't have the copies on me. They were so good, and they deserve to be on this list. One I already talked about, which is 200 Monas by Jan Sines, and I kind of already told you what it was about, so I'll skip that one. Another one that I haven't talked about yet is To Drown a Witch by Lindsay Olsen. If you liked the Crimson Moth duology, you would really like this. Magic is not allowed. It is outlawed in the city, and the witch, who has all this power, gets reincarnated. And so everyone is trying to hunt down the witch to drown the witch so they can stop magic and make things go back to normal, essentially. But in order to do that, they have to drown the actual witch, and there are a lot of drownings that happen in the town square that are not the witch. And so it's this mad hunt to find the witch. It is a dual POV. The main character can smell magic. That's one of her unique abilities when she consumes illegal magic, and she's able to smell magic, and so one of the guardsmen hires her to help hunt down the witch. She's also a debut author, so I definitely double, triple recommend that because that book deserves the hype, okay? Another debut author that I had the privilege of getting an advanced reader copy of was Every Version of You by Natalie Messier. This is a second chance romance with magical realism attached to it. Our main character is 30 years old. She is unhappy with how her life has turned out. She ends up getting in a car accident after going to a party, and then she is able to go back to any time in her life and do over her life, essentially. And so she chooses to go back to college because that's where she meets her best friend, and she thinks that getting him to fall in love with her will fix all these things. But then her eye starts to wander and catches on to the man that she ends up hating as an adult. A wonderful second chance romance. Next is a nonfiction, and it is Invisible Women. I tabbed this book a lot. There are so many quotes that pissed me off, a lot of data that pissed me off. It is the data bias in a world designed for men. It essentially talks about how everything that we do is in a male-focused view. So, for example, any kind of drug trial test will primarily be men. They'll only test women for a week of their cycle when their testosterone is the highest because it's the male default. So that's a prime example. There are crazy statistics and data points in here. This will make you pissed off, also motivate you to advocate more for yourself. And then the last few I have already talked about. So Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I already told you about this. I won't get into it again, but this was not quite a 5-star read for me, but it was really close. Tell the Wolves I'm Home was not, again, a 5-star read, but it was very close. Finally, the last 4-star plus book that I read was Next to You, which is a book by Hannah Bonham Young. You love romance and you have not read Hannah Bonham Young, I don't know what you're doing. This wasn't one of my all-time favorites by her, but I did really love it. My favorite one is Out on a Limb. I didn't read that this year though, that was a last year read. But Next to You is a close second. One of the last questions that we have for this book tag is books you want to reread. I don't do a lot of rereading books, but there is a series that I want to reread because I read it in middle school, and I have not read the new books that have come out in this series since then. The Hunger Games trilogy. I have not watched the movies since middle school. I have not consumed any Hunger Games content since then, which I know people are going to be so shook by. I haven't read either of the prequels to these, is what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to be reading this trilogy so I can read the prequels, because otherwise I'm just going to be too disconnected from this world. I need to get back into it. So I want to reread these. I feel like they'll be really fast reads. I didn't realize how thin they were. Like, I could get through this really fast. These are books that I'd like to reread this year. And last but not least, the final question of this tag is anticipated 5-star books. I have only read the main Red Rising trilogy. So the next book in the Red Rising series is Iron Gold. Both Golden Sun and Morning Star were 5 stars for me, so I'm anticipating the rest of the series only gets better, and I'm scared. This book is one that I'm about to actually pick up. This is my next read. It's A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. This is one of the prequels to Priory of the Orange Tree, which was a 5-star read for me. Samantha Shannon, she is a master writer. Like, the prose, the world building is insane, and I'm so excited. This one also gives big book fear. Like, it is a massive book. I loved Priory of the Orange Tree, so I'm less fearful of the big book for this because I love her writing so much. I'm really excited for this. I'm also anticipating Silver Cloak by L.K. Stephen to be a 5-star. I loved her YA fantasy that came out last year, I believe it was, Our Infinite Fates. And then I didn't know that she wrote adult fantasy too under the name L.K. Stephen, because for Our Infinite Fates, it's Lauren Stephen. And this has wand magic in it, and I love wand magic. I'm so excited. And it sounds like the magic system is based on pleasure and pain. And so like it takes energy from either sensation in order to feel the magic, and that just sounds really intriguing to me. That's all I know about it. And Turncloak, which is the second book in this series, just came out, so I need to lock in. I'm not sure how many of you will know this author, but Jenna Rose Nethercott is an author who I discovered when I was just randomly browsing the bookstore one day, and I pulled it out and my mom was like, oh my gosh, I loved that book. And it was Thistlefoot, and that was a Baba Yaga retelling, and it was so well done. Her writing is absolutely gorgeous and super immersive. I recently picked this up, and it's 50 Beasts to Break Your Heart, so I'm really excited for this. I anticipate this being a 5-star read just because I love her writing style so much. And then the final book that I anticipate being a 5-star read is The Poppy War. I have not read The Poppy War. I have only read Babel and Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. Like I said, I haven't read Catabasis yet, and I haven't read the Poppy War trilogy. I know so many people who this is like god tier trilogy. This is a god tier story for them. And I also know that it's emotionally devastating. And maybe that's why I've been putting it off. Because I'm not in the mindset to be emotionally devastated. Thank you for listening to me yap for so long about all the books that I loved, all the books that I'm excited for. It's been a really good reading year, like I said. Averaging 4 stars is not very like me. Typically I'm like at a 3.5 star average rating, so I'm very proud of myself that my physical TBR that I've been mainly pulling from has been solid. Like, the books I'm getting, I know myself well enough that I will only choose books that I feel like I will really, really enjoy and not like take a gamble on, if that makes sense. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed. Like I said, I'll put Sarah's video below in the description so you can watch hers, and I'll also put the questions down below so you can answer them maybe yourself in your own video, or comment down your favorite read so far of the year. I would love to know so I can add it to my own list, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!